don't doubt it's gonna go a fun way with you anyway. So, uh, it always does. So Surinder, welcome to the Harder Not Smarter show. No, have the coffee up in your face. I do too.
Hey, listen, guys. Thank you for having me on.
No, so Surinder was or I'd say still the matriarch of all the SoCal based coffee shops, as you can see in the background. The Surinder's coffee placard. These things were dotted all over the Camp Pendleton, Miramar, Point Loma, 32nd Street, North Island, Coronado. And there's a bunch in there. There's like 16 of them total that she had across the area. And the remarkable thing is that she stood each of these up. I mean, Surinder is an absolute entrepreneur through and through, and has been a staple of the Naval Special Warfare community. Her husband just recently retired after 30 years, and she's been with him the whole time. Through the thick and thin of all of that. And now she's recently starting up her own podcast, The Goode Show. And she's been nominated or selected pretty much as the voice of military spouse entrepreneurs. She is a force to be reckoned with. She knows pretty much everybody in the community, and is always looking to help out veteran service members, spouses, you name it. She's always lending a helping hand. So welcome to the show, Surinder.
Wow, what a great introduction. I feel like my head's like... Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for both of you having me on.
No, it's our pleasure. So you have to tell us, you have exotic features. You have the British or Scottish accent?
British until I go home, and then I revert back to Scottish.
It's all over the place. So you grew up in the UK in various spots. Somehow got married to a SEAL. Have been with him for 30 plus years through his career. Have kids. Been through deployments. How did that whole thing come about?
Basically, I always knew from a very early age I was geographically born in the wrong country. I knew that. And when the Gulf War happened, I was like, peace out, people. I'm heading out to the Middle East. And I remember my dad looking at me going, what are you, crazy? There's a war going on out there. And I'm like, yeah, that means the economy is going to be booming, So I moved to the Middle East. And back in the day, I don't know what, we had a lot of fun with it. We were trolley dogs, right? We worked for Gulf Air, and we had a blast. It was a great job. Got to travel, see, great, parts of the world. And then, I was in Bahrain, and of course, you guys used to come through. And so that was my first interaction with the military.
You guys being team guys, special operations people.
Yeah, military. Team guys. I'm going to be honest with you. A girl said to me, I remember...
You can't just say you people in this show. We're politically sensitive.
Yeah, we are a very politically correct podcast, so we need to button it up.
Yeah. You guys look real sensitive to me. Yeah, team guys used to come through. But I didn't know what team guys were, and I really didn't give a shit, to be honest with you, because I was there for one reason. I was there just to make money. But this incident occurred where there was the bombing of the Khobar Towers. And I was in Bahrain, 30 minutes away. And I think it was the first time I really felt unsafe. Now, this is going to sound really corny to every American listening. But as a Brit growing up, my idea of America was John Wayne, the mailbox in the front yard, the basketball, you know what I mean? Who else did we love? Oh, Dirty Harry, you know what I mean? So when so that was my idea of America. So this Khobar thing happened, right? And I remember being in a bar, go figure, and
typical.
And I remember saying to some guy, an American guy, I was like, dude, this is like crazy, man. This is scary shit. And he turned around to me, and I know it sounds corny. He turned around to me and he went, don't worry, we're here. And coupled with the American accent, I just thought...
This is like John Wayne line.
Isn't it? Totally.
Don't worry, the cavalry has arrived.
Yeah. But you gotta understand. I mean, to my ears at that time, it was scary. The scariest thing I'd been in was a bad landing, a little bumpy landing. So to me, it was scary. So as corny as it sounds, Anyway, I left there. I came to Coronado. I came to visit a gal, a friend of mine that had married a keen guy. While I was here, bumped into my guy. And we spent 6 days together. And after that 6 day period, I flew back one more time. It was a weekend. It was July the 4th. Went back to the Middle East. He called me, said, "Hey, what do you think?" I said, "Roger that. I'm heading over." And that was it. I moved over, and it was everything I expected it to be.
That sounds. How have I never heard this story from you? That sounds so eerily similar
6
to.
days?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's amazing.
You beat Kristen and me. So I met Kristen. I was stationed in Korea. She was living in Hawaii. She had just quit being a school teacher out there because the Hawaiian school system sucks. She lasted all of 1 year, and took a job at a bar. I think it was the second night she was working there, just to figure out what she was going to be doing next. I ran into her, totally sober, of course,
Yeah.
and she was working the bar. I asked for her number. She's like, "I work a lot." I'm like, "That's cool. Well, when do you work next?" She said, "Tomorrow night." I came back the next night. She gave me her number. We went surfing a couple nights later, hung out for the next 3 weeks in Hawaii. I went back to Korea. She flew out there for 3 weeks. So I met her on like September 1st. She flew out to Korea for 3 weeks. And then when she flew back over FaceTime, we were just chatting. And by the end of the conversation, we're like, "So are we getting married?" And then
Wow.
December 31st, New Year's Eve, we got married. So 4 months later from the day I met her, doing a destination wedding in Hawaii. When she's from New York, I'm from California. I'm living in New York. She's living in Hawaii. We're like, this is going to be a inconvenient wedding for everyone involved. So we're just going to kind of do it. But yeah, I didn't know that you and Goode beat Kristen in our timeline. We had like 6 weeks together.
I just knew, and I was never that gal that was I was quite happy being just me doing my thing. I didn't need, a boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
So, I think sometimes that when you're not looking for the relationship, it happens. And I am going to say this, and I don't say this often enough, but I did marry the cream of the crop. I mean,
Goode is amazing.
I mean,
everybody knows him.
We have this little saying in the house. Every now and again, we'll look at each other and we'll go, "You're a good motherfucker," you know that?
I mean, if there's any advice to give new married couples, old married couples, whatever you want to say, I think that right there is it. You just look at each other and be like, "You're looking good, motherfucker."
Yeah. There's a reason why you marry that person. Do you know what I mean? So, and the thing is, with my coffee business and everything else that I've done moving forward in the world of entrepreneurship, it's been really important to have that support of your partner, because especially if one is traveling, and you've got shit going on, if you don't have that support, then it's really difficult. So, cheers, Goode. You're a good motherfucker.
Well, again, congrats to you guys on that. So what's next on the docket for you guys now? Actually, if you want to first get into just the coffee empire that you built on base and how that start, and
is it still around? Are you still running?
No, something in 2016. I kind of closed down my last location over at North Island. And it was very sad for me. I mean, I was on base for 14, 15 years. I feel like I was in the military. In fact, somebody said to me at one point, "Hey, listen, Surinder, we're gonna give you a retirement ceremony." Hey, you didn't give it to me, right?
Still waiting on it.
But it started real simple, guys. I was going down to the base. It was an ungodly hour. And I turned around to Goode and I said, "Hey, listen, where can I get coffee from?" And he said to me, "Chief's Mess." And I went, "Oh," I said, "Do they do lattes?" And he said to me, "No." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I just started thinking to myself,
you'd be lucky if they had creamer in there.
I was thinking, why don't they have this though? I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. So I drove around a couple of bases, had a look. The very next day, I went home, came home, wrote out my business plan. I decided that was what I wanted to do. And it's very rudimentary. I mean, if I look at it now, and I do sometimes, and I think, oh my God, but it's very basic. Hey, I want to open a coffee location. I want it outside the exchange. This is how big of a space I need. I've got no experience. I got no credit. I've just moved to the country, but I know what I'm doing. Trust me, And they kind of looked at it and went, no. So I went back every Tuesday. Every Tuesday I went back to the Navy Exchange and I went, hey, you need me. You need me. And every Tuesday they went, no. So I got smart. Went back on a Thursday and I went, hey, you need me. And to be honest with you, I think they got to a point where they just thought, she's here every week, just give it to her. And the other thing was I turned around to them and I said, I think you're missing something here. All you guys have to do is give me a space, give me some utilities. I set everything up. And then at the end of the month, I give you a nice big fat check. That's it.
That's a good business pitch right there.
Yeah. And that's how it started. First location, cart one, never forget it. Rolled up outside the base at 3:30 in the morning, stopped my truck, got out, walked over to the side of the road, and I vomited like the exorcist. And I remember thinking, okay, you wanted this, you better go do it now, I was so nervous. I just thought, what if they don't like me? What if they don't understand me? What if I fuck this up? I've just walked out of a job where I was getting paid 6 figures plus. And I'm telling my husband, hey man, I'm going to open a coffee cart. I don't drink tea, but I'm going to open a coffee cart. A crazy town. But I opened it. Shit went real hairy, scary the first couple of days. And I made a mental point to myself. The only thing that mattered to me was when they walked away, when you guys walked away from my coffee cart, your experience was good. That's all I cared about. The coffee could have sucked ass, but the experience was good. That was it. That was my business plan.
And there was always good banter,
I think that's great too, because you get with so many people that are on base and so many of these like government contractors that you have to deal with that are just like clocking in and clocking out and don't give you the time. I mean, the civilian rank is the highest rank in the military, right? So having somebody on base that's like just someone that you can like decompress with over coffee and have a good experience with would be huge.
Oh, I tell you, that's why I started my podcast, because I really regret not recording those conversations. I mean, we know, they were incredibly inappropriate, but so funny, I mean, and it was complete role reversal of the card. I freely admit it, I mean, I'd turn around to the guys and I'd be like, man, check you out. And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, come on, give an old lady her jollies. I mean, I talk smack to them all day long. And my baristas, if any of my baristas see this podcast, I want you all to know, you guys are the best fucking team I ever had. I mean, they were awesome. And they did so much because your team is an extension of you, So I'm very proud of them all.
I just love the story you told me about so you used to have the coffee cart right next to the exchange, and you'd see people walking out with a cup of coffee from the exchange instead of yours.
Well, I was by the Mickey D's, and and they didn't do lattes or anything at that time. It was only regular coffee. And I remember I was standing there one day.
This is pre-McCafe.
Yeah. And this guy walked by, and I went, "Hey, did you get that coffee from McDonald's? Did you?" And he went, "Yeah." And I went, "I hope you get the shits." And he was like, "Yeah, thanks." And he came back, and he did, right enough, he did get the shits. It's like when I took away the one day I went to work and I thought, no more smalls. I'm not selling no 12-ounce coffee. Who buys that, right? And actually, 12-ounce cups are more expensive than your 20-ounce. So I took all of the small cups away. Didn't tell anybody. Because when guys used to come up to me to get a coffee, I just gave you a large cup, took the money, gave you great service, smacked you on the ass, and wish you a happy Navy Day. No, nobody ever spoke about things. Right? So I was with one of my girls, and she said to me, "Why am I going to stay? Why am I going to stay?" I said, "Listen, he ain't saying shit." When he comes up and he goes, "Hey, you want a coffee?" You give him the large end of straw. You know, biggie, man. So of course, my first guy comes up. She goes up, "Oh, here, gives him the coffee cup," and he goes, "No, I don't want a large." And I thought, "Oh, here we go, first guy, right?" And I looked at him and I went, "Seriously, you don't want a large? So let me get this straight, because I'm just looking out for you, bro. Okay, you want to go into work holding your head up high with a small? Well, come on, what the fuck? Here's your large. Take it to work. Go in and boast. I got a large. I got a large. 175, please." He gave me the money. He went, "Okay, off you went." I was like, "There you go, girl. That's what you do."
You don't want to look like Shaq holding a soda can. Have you ever seen those pictures? There's pictures all over the internet of Shaq holding things that just look ridiculous. Like a can of soda looks like he's holding a little mini can.
Yeah.
His shoes
no-
next
I'm
to
sure
people.
that I have seen.
They're great.
Ain't no man gonna be boasting about a small, let's be honest.
No.
Yeah. So you guys were very easy to deal with, easiest customers in the world. And for me, and I was telling somebody this the other day, that military environment for me, from the culture and the era that I come from, to be able to walk onto a base and be wacko jacko coffee lady behind the coffee cup. Nobody knew me. I don't even wear a wedding ring. Nobody knew who I was married to. Do you know what I mean? But for everybody just to accept me, no judgment, just come and just have good conversation, that to me is huge. That's why I hold the military so dear, because for me, my experience as a spouse and as a business owner on base, I was supported 100% by everybody that, bought coffee from me. And again, no judgment. Everybody knew I was going to cuss at them. Everybody knew I was going to say something inappropriate. And nobody gave a shit.
And so as you were building this out, you had you started with the first one, I'm assuming right there on NAB Coronado was your first spot, and then you expanded out from there. And you told me that you stood up each of those locations yourself. You'd sit out front from 3 a.m. until 7 a.m, counting the number of people literally with a clicker, figuring out how many people will walk by there, and then learn the customers yourself before you hired anybody else to work that location.
That's true. I had to work it to build it, because as we all know, when your name's on the, when you own it, it starts with you, it stops with you, and you got to lead right. I had to work those locations to build those sales, to create relationships, and also, more importantly, that when my barista joined me, I would be able to make introductions, make her feel comfortable. It's not just cold, that was important to me, because, you want your team to know the environment, be introduced. You want to set them up for success. So, I worked them, and you have to. There's no other way.
That's
what was your rhythm like at the height when you had the most shops? What was your rhythm like at the height of your shops when you had the most? I mean, how did you manage all of those locations? How did you prioritize where you were going to be?
I had exceptional baristas. Now, we are going back, 20 odd years. It was a different young mindset at that time as well. And what I realized, listen, I do things a little bit outside of the box, right? My baristas did the hiring. more so than me. I let them hire, right? I had very simple rules. And my rules were, you don't bitch about each other. We don't build that kind of cancer. We work as a team. If you can't, somebody has to fucking leave. It's really that simple. I got shit to do. I had a kid at the time as well, and, Goode was on deployment and the rest of it. My baristas just had exceptional work ethic. They loved their job. They were patriotic. Let's be honest here. We were, I was a lot younger, right? My baristas were 24, 23, hot to trot, and I've given them a job surrounded by all the eye candy in the world. You'd be an idiot to want to lose it. And all you're doing is making coffee, and part of your job is to actually have conversation with the guys. That's part of your job. But there were rules. Hey, you can have conversation, but you know what I'm saying? We don't.
It ends at conversations.
Yeah, that's it. Now, I know a couple of times that slipped through my fingers, and my barista married a team guy, and and that shit happens. But
Hey, you're a matchmaker too.
No, don't, no. I want no part of that. No.
And so, as you were getting to the height of it, what was it? You were just having issues with the exchange, that you saw too many dollar signs on your forehead, and they tried to squeeze you a little bit.
Well, the thing is this: the exchange. I will say this: were very good to me. Yes, of course. The bottom, it's all about the almighty dollar at the end of the day, right? I was giving them a lot of almighty dollars because I was doing well. The thing that really came to a head for me on a personal level and on a professional level was, on a personal level, my father abroad was not well, so I was going backwards and forwards. It was a terminal illness. And then on a professional level, the Navy Exchange did come to me and say, hey, Surinder, we'd like you to consider maybe going nationwide. And the truth was, at that time, I didn't know how. I didn't know who to go to. How do you do that? And so
that'd be a daunting task.
Yeah. So, seriously. And then I've got kids. Goode's still active. It was, I would have loved to have done it. I just didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ultimately ended up starting to close down. My father passed away, and my father asked me a question when I went to see him one day, and he said to me, Surinder, he said, you can take all the money that you're making right now and you can put it at the end of the bed, but the reality of the situation is I am going to die. So I want you to ask yourself, are you living to work or working to live? And to be honest with you, at that time, I did not even understand what he was saying because I was so emotionally involved in the situation. But I came back and I did take stock of a couple of things. And I realized that I had got to a point in my coffee career where I had a really good time on base, things were good, but I was going to start, my mind had kind of changed. I'd done it, there wasn't anything else I could do, and my dad was right. I have 2 kids. I was in a fortunate position to spend a little bit more time with them before it's too late. So I started closing down some locations, and it took me a year to close them all down. It was very sad for me. It was sad, but it was a great ride. I am incredibly fortunate and blessed. And thank you to each and every one of you guys that came to whatever location you came to. I hope you got some shit. I hope you got your ass smacked. And if you didn't, well, you missed out, But yeah, it was great. So it was a good time. They did ask me to open up again, but it's a different world now. It's a different Navy. It's a different military. I don't think I could slap somebody's ass now and get away.
I'd say you might get your hand slapped if you slap somebody else's ass.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Sad.
It was a good run while you had it. It was genuinely appreciated.
Well, thank you. Yeah, loved it.
And so now with the podcast and the military spouse entrepreneurship stuff, tell me what you have going on there.
It's a good podcast. I'm talking to a lot of veterans and military spouses, predominantly military spouses. I'm giving them a platform to highlight their business. And my mindset behind it is, I don't need you to have 50 employees. As far as I'm concerned, whoever you are, if you are making a concerted effort to be self-independent financially and get a business up and running, you may have only got 10 followers on Instagram. I don't give a shit. I want to help you. I want to talk about what you're doing, why you're doing it, what's your end goal, how you're going to get there. Because what I've realized is that for the small business, the small military spouse business, small veteran, marketing is key, but sometimes it's those dollars that we don't have. So if I can get I interviewed a great author the other day, Patrick Holcomb. Now, if one person buys Patrick's book because they heard it on my podcast, then fucking kudos. I've done my job. I just want to help people grow. And what can I do to help you? That's what my platform's about. Everybody's got a story, just like you guys. And this is terrible, but I forgot his name again. You just interviewed him where you were talking about Eurotrash.
Sean Haggerty.
Oh yeah, Sean Haggerty. Yeah.
Sorry, Sean.
I apologize for that too. That was unlike me to say something like that, and I just want to publicly apologize. Yes, very unbecoming.
And I know.
Watch episode 1, listen to it, understand why you apologize. Then listen to, I guess this will be episode 4. And just keep cycling back and forth. You'll hear their apology in there.
I don't give a shit. But listen, let me just ask you guys a question, right? Because I want to ask you guys something. Your platform for getting your podcast out, I am totally in awe of how you guys have navigated your podcast and getting it out. I read on LinkedIn the other day, because I follow you guys, you got like 300 followers, in such a very short period of time. What are you guys doing? I mean, what are you doing that I'm not doing? This is what I love about entrepreneurship, because it's like, okay, I want to know, because I'm older than dirt, man. I got a 14-year-old social media manager. And, and I feel like a hypocrite because I say to her, Jordan, put your phone down, but pick up mine.
Use my Instagram. I mean, it's really come down, and I'll let Greg answer from his perspective, but it's really come down to telling a good story. And unfortunately, because I know you hate social media, you hate, like every other military person, you hate boasting about yourself. It doesn't even have to be boasting. It's just talking about what you've done, telling your story so that other people can hear that they're not alone in their journey. Like with entrepreneurship, so many people are alone in that journey because they're like, I'm just building this myself. I don't want to ask for help because it's a zero-sum game out there, and if I ask for help, then I'm giving out competitive advantage. And Greg and I have both completely thrown that to the wind. Like, we put all of our information out there. Everything is essentially free. We're putting in posts of, here's how we build our podcast. This is our tech stack. This is how we've been building the newsletter. This is how we're setting up the business of the Vetrepreneur community, and why we want you to join us, and how that money is being circulated around to pay for other things. We're not trying to hide behind this coy veil of, oh, join this community. It's altruistic. It is still a business, but the idea is that by participating in this business of ours, you're learning about business yourself. I mean, how many guys are in our community, Greg, that are content creators, writers, doing podcasts, doing other stuff like that they're just like, this is amazing information. Everything you guys have been putting out, I'm now applying to building my own platform.
Yeah, there's been a ton. And I think you're spot on there. And one thing is just like you just got to be consistent on, and everybody says it, you got to be consistent on social media. And like, I think would I love to not have to like write a LinkedIn post every single day and respond to a bunch of comments? Like, fuck yeah, I would love to not do that. I enjoyed writing, but it has become sort of a job. But it's good. At the end of the day, what keeps me motivated is that like we are providing a like super cheap service for veterans, and my post is just a gas or fuel for that. And then for you, I think the same thing would be like, okay, why I know I need to do this, like, and I need to do this because like if I do this, then my platform grows and I can get more people to buy that book of this guest who's been on the podcast. So that's kind of what I try to keep in the back of my mind when posting on social media. We're going to be venturing into Instagram pretty soon.
Greg's going to be venturing into Instagram.
Yes,
I have an unhealthy relationship with that thing. I think I've deleted it off my phone at least a dozen times. It's a doom scroll, waste of time for me, and so I'm happily handing that to Greg. I'll give him content, but I'm not going to say never. Until I figure out a healthier relationship with Instagram and all the other meta platforms, I will probably not be the one participating behind the keyboard.
Let me ask you content, because somebody was asking me the other day. Look, I get up in the morning, I go work out, see my kids off at the door, see my husband, whatever shit. I come in my office, knock my shit out. And sometimes, let's be honest, right? You work out, you get home, I've got shit going on, and then I don't actually get to brush my teeth until maybe 2 p.m. I mean, shit just rolls like that. Let's be honest, right? That's real life. So I'm not one of those people that is doing anything fantastic every day when I'm going to sit here with my phone going, So what am I posting? That has always been my thing. What am I posting? Hey, Surinder, she hasn't brushed her teeth or scrubbed her ass, but she worked out this morning, Nobody wants to see that.
Take a sweaty selfie.
But so what do you guys do with content? How do you get it? What do you do?
So I think one good idea for you with the podcast is like you're going to have so much video content that you're just going to like, as you go through, if you can have your 14-year-old be a producer and just like try to find like
you laugh, but you can also pay him too, which is another entrepreneurial tip.
I do pay her, and let me tell you something. She is very expensive. Just you wait.
No, but I mean, like in terms of IRS and payroll, you can put her on there, especially if she's doing legitimate stuff like that. Like, there's people that put some wonky justification for paying their kids, but like if your kids are managing your social media and helping you create content, absolutely.
Now, is it that the kid has to be 15, at least 15, I believe?
I don't think so.
Really?
There's different wage cutoffs, annual wage amounts based off age, but I don't think age is a factor in terms of if you can pay them.
Okay.
You can start a 401k for them.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff, yeah, but 14, it's 14, but yeah, she's expensive. Jordan, you're expensive, but girlfriend, you are worth it.
Yeah, Greg, if you want to go back to explain content creation.
Yeah, so I mean, even with Riverside, I'm not sure what platform you're using, but Riverside, when I'm done with this, I'll say generate shorts or generate reels, and it'll take this podcast and it'll give me like 15 different segments, and not all of them are great, but you'll get about like 3 or 4 of them that like actually have some like legitimate snippets from the podcast that you can then just use. I mean, that could be your weekly content right there. You could have 4 that you're going to post out. There's other, I have to think of the name of the platform, but you just stick the video in there and it's another AI tool that will check the virality of the podcast. They'll go through the entire podcast, put up clips. You can like break it down by 30 to 60 second clips, like 120 second clips. And it'll give you about like 20 different reels that you can also use. So you don't necessarily have to have even a producer do it. But then that's your content. And then from there, like Instagram is more like LinkedIn, where you have to like be sort of deliberate about your audience and when you're going to put on there, and actually having something to say, like putting something in the comments. And this is from what I've heard. I haven't grown on Instagram before, but then TikTok and YouTube, if you were ever going to go down that route, you can just like basically take those 3 reels and just like put them on there all at once, and they'll just generate through the algorithm.
See, somebody asked me about TikTok the other day, and I won't go on TikTok.
I don't. Yeah, it's a mess.
It's a lot. But yeah, the big thing with content creation is don't create a 1-to-1 use ratio. So like for us, we have the podcast, which gives us an hour plus interview with somebody. We can then break that down into a 1,000-word article talking about him or her as a vetrepreneur, which we then put on to our newsletter. Both of those can be broken down further. We have the shorts, the reels that we'll use as content, and then the snippets from both the article and the podcast we can use as content. So now one article or one interview that lasted an hour has a newsletter article, 3, 4, 5 posts that we can create, and so it's about leveraging your time as effectively as possible, because you don't want to create something new and unique every single day, because you're all building off of the same theme, the same message. Like, you have an amazing platform and an amazing message that you're going to be talking about. Military spouse, you've been in the community for 30 years. You know it through and through. You've lived the deployments, you've lived the workup cycles, you lived the entrepreneurship side, the relationships with the base, with the civilians, with normal corporations. So you, probably more so than most anybody else in the country, would be the prime person to be speaking about military spouse entrepreneurship. And so you just need to tell your story, and that's what it comes down to. Like, you're not sitting out there bragging about what you've done and how great you are. All you're doing is saying, I went through this experience. I know there's other women, particularly women for spouses, but it can go both ways. There's other people out there that have lived the spouse life. They've had to move every 2-3 years. They've had to deal with deployments where their spouse is gone probably more than half the time. So how do you create a viable business that allows you to still weather the moves, especially if you're having to move overseas? So having something like a podcast, digital content, digital marketing, like all these things that you can do remotely are phenomenal jobs or businesses for spouses to have. And so if you just talk about these things, like, here's your option, and you can please use and abuse all of our content. You can pretty much make a couple tweaks. So I'm talking about the same stuff of finding purpose, finding meaning, enjoying what you do, being able to spend time with family, making a good income. All those things can be applied to mil-spouse entrepreneurship. And so you can just put your own flair on it, and use those as your posts to create a following. It is a grind, because we do post 7 days a week. You can do it less, but that's the metric where we're at. And you slowly build that audience that interacts with your content on a regular basis. And it begins to spiral at a certain point, just like Malcolm Gladwell, you hit that tipping point.
Yeah. Now, I recently, I don't know who it is up there that, shines on me sometimes, but very recently, I was introduced to a great gal by the name of Ali Craig, and she's with a company called Victor and Valor. And Ali Craig and Victor and Valor came in, they took my website, they took everything, and they have just built me a beautiful website. SurinderGoode.com, go to it, check it out, let me know what you think. But
that's GOODE.
That's right. They have just done my branding right across the board, and it is beautiful. And they very, very kindly did it for nothing. I mean, and
That's
what
amazing.
this gal has done is just incredible, and it really makes really, again, I'm so fortunate because she's come in and she's done this. I only have one goal as I move forward with the Goode podcast and a couple of other activations, and the thing that's very near and dear to my heart, and if I get emotional when I say this, I don't give a shit. I want to help combat the food insecurities, especially amongst our junior enlisted, because I have spoken to spouses out there that have created this event, and the event is called dumpster diving, because our junior enlisted in California, in San Diego, with the price of everything, they're going without food now. It is wrong, plain simple wrong, and it definitely but just, I mean, I can't imagine my guy or any of you going on a deployment, knowing fine well that your family may not have enough food. I just
Yeah, that would not go well.
spoke to a spouse in Korea who has a young child, and the commissary didn't have milk, eggs, and cheese. I mean, this is as a mother, as a military spouse, and just as a human, that shit does not sit well with me. So my goal moving forward is I just want to be able to put food on the table for our junior enlisted, regardless of branch. I don't give a shit about branch. That is my ultimate goal. And I think somebody asked me this question the other day about, well, you're a respectful spouse, and and why you're going outside of the arena. Well, listen, Specball has been so good to me. I am so proud to be a Specball spouse. Right? It's been very good to me. We get a lot of stuff. We get a lot of good stuff, and I think we deserve a lot of good stuff. And sometimes we don't. Okay, but we are in a position. I feel I am in a position where I can help. So why would you? Do you know what I mean? And every year on the base, I used to give the captain a gift card for the commissary, just give it to a family that needs it. Food is a basic human necessity, and again, I sleep at night and I say the smack that I say and the shit that I talk because there are people out there that allow me to do that. That is not lost upon me. I come from a bit of a shithole, so again, this is where I feel the way I feel about the country that I'm in and the communities that I've been privileged to serve. So if I can help, that's my goal. So moving forward, I, listen to the Goode podcast, follow me, the Goode Show. Have no shame.
Please.
I want to build this platform so I can do some good, and I want to get some good stories out there. It's really very simple.
What type of guests are you bringing on?
I'm bringing on military spouses that have started businesses. I've had some veterans reach out to me and say, I've got a small business, three of us just starting up. The author that I spoke to, he's a retired Marine after 20 years, The book is about baseball, but it's a great story, a great moral in it. And something, the guy put some sweat, equity into this book to get it out there. And hey, man, I want you on my show and let people hear about you because that's the only way you get it going,
Yeah, we'll have to plug the book here too as well.
Yes, you guys.
You can send us the link. Yeah,
I'm going to connect you guys to, But I have to say this about both of you, Kevin. We spoke about what you're doing like on a Monday. Then on a Tuesday, I went on LinkedIn and you had launched, and I thought to myself, what the fuck? That was fast. How did you just? It was like overnight.
I mean, it's one of those things that I don't know if it's personality driven or if it's what the military did to me, nature versus nurture. But I've always been very comfortable with the 70%, sometimes even less plan to be like, all right, we got enough, we can move forward with this. One of my first platoon LPOs would always say, that'll buff out, you'll figure it out along the way. So many people try and have a perfect plan. They need to have all the following and then all the graphics and then the intro music and everything. The formatting needs to be perfect because they're comparing themselves to, Chris Williamson and Sean Ryan and Joe Rogan. Like, these guys have millions of followers. So I need to make my stuff exactly, for podcast examples, I need to make my stuff exactly like theirs because that's what success means. But what they need to be doing is going back to episode 1, episode 2, episode 10 and seeing where they actually started, what they began with, what they worked up to, and then follow the progression along the way. No one's going to have, Sean Ryan, dude's killing it right now. He's on like episode 140, I think. So pretty early on relative to a lot of these others. I think, Chris Williamson's at 300 something, 400 something, and Joe Rogan's in the thousands. Sean Ryan has 2.2 million subscribers on YouTube alone. I don't know what he has on, Spotify and Apple and Amazon, but the guy, I think I looked at his most recent episode that was released on February 5th, and it already had 500,000 views on YouTube. And so the guy, former SEAL, CIA contractor, a whole bunch of other things, and he's doing an amazing job of building a profile of somebody, knowing how to interview them, knowing the questions to ask, and just creating a very seamless show. And in the very short amount of time, has been able to grow it into an amazing following. And so, a lot of people see these types of things like, I need to be at that point now, where you just need to just get reps in. Like, honestly, what we're going to have you on in like 50 episodes when we have a little bit better traction. Because right now, like these episodes are probably going to be somewhat buried. We're stoked that we got over 100 YouTube views on our first episode.
Oh my gosh.
And
It's
so,
amazing.
we couldn't be more proud of that. But, in the grand scheme of things, 100 views, if you're trying to actually monetize a podcast and turn it into something, it's nothing, but it's an amazing start. And so we're going to have to build on those reps, having these conversations, reviewing the episodes, looking like, all right, what was the lighting like? What did our audio sound like? What did the video sound like? How do we edit this better? How do we create a more seamless, user-friendly experience? How do we get rid of annoying verbal tics and motions? Like, I'll look back at the first one and like I'm swinging back and forth in my chair. I'm like, that's really distracting, but I didn't notice I was doing it. But you're not going to see these things until you just do it. So to get to your question, I'm very much of the person that's like, let's just start doing this and we'll figure out the rest along the way. It's how I started my LinkedIn. I was just posting. Some of those early posts are very cringeworthy. I'm like, I thought this was good. And you just get better. You have to get your reps in. You can't expect to be good on rep number 1.
Now, there's a couple of things I want to say here. First of all, what you just said about you knew that you 70%. I got it 70%. I'm going to go. Just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things after talking to the entrepreneurs that I've spoken to is it's a classic kind of like a sign of an entrepreneur. Like I knew with the coffee carts, I knew the start, I knew what my end was going to be. See the middle? I didn't know what that was going to be, but I wasn't scared because I thought, I know my beginning, I know my end. We're just going to fucking rock and roll it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and a lot of people that I've spoken to have had that same kind of mindset. Like, I knew I wanted to make bourbon, so I made it. Kind of like I didn't know how I was going to make it, but I got there. I think that's I'm beginning to notice that as I talk to people. That that's how it is. And the other thing is the kids, because my mom and dad always used to say to me, or say about me, Surinder doesn't know what she wants to do. I should have been a doctor or a lawyer. I mean, how disappointing was that, But because I never knew what I wanted to do. And I said to my son the other day, I said, Steve, I'm 54, dude. I don't know what I want to do, but I do know this. Nobody's ever going to tell me that I've reached my cap and I'm not worth anymore. I'm not going to have that happen. And nobody's ever going to tell me again that, now, Surinder, you can't take a day off work. That's never going to happen to me again. Those two things are not going to happen.
I mean, and that right there is exactly what you create content about. Like that, no one's going to tell you what you need to do. You're never going to have to ask for permission to take a day off work. You're never going to leave your kids at school because you couldn't get off work, or tell your kids that can't go to the doctor because your boss won't let you go.
Yeah.
Those are all the things that you write about, because that's what people are living every day. Outside the military, obviously, military people, you're going to have to ask for permission to take your kids to work, to the doctor and stuff like that sometimes. But for the most part, the military is pretty good about understanding about those things. But the day-to-day people, especially after you've left the military, and people willingly give up a lot of the stuff that the average person takes for granted to join the military. You're going to be moving, your pay is not going to be as good. There's going to be inherent risk, and there's going to be constant influx and change going on in your life, but you're okay with it because you know that there's a larger purpose. What a lot of people see, especially after they leave the military, is what they thought was a very green field. There's mud underneath that grass too. You're going to get dirty, and sometimes the pay is good, but all the other things were much better in the military, and there's a bit of transition shock that goes into it. So the more stuff like that you can talk about, you talk with enough spouses that you've heard the stories, whether they're veteran spouses or current active duty spouses. You know their pain points, their gripes, and you just create content around that.
Let me ask you something, Greg. You are outside of the US. How is that for your family? Like the adjustment?
We're getting there. The kids are. I got a 4 and a 2-year-old, so I mean, they're just along for the ride, and they don't really. They don't really. They're going, like, my 4-year-old's going to a Doty school, so he's at an international school over here with a bunch of U.S. kids. So through his day to day is very similar to what it looked like before. And then my 2-year-old is just hanging out with daddy daycare and going to the school. Hard Knocks is what I tell him every day. And so, I mean, they don't notice. I think it's more my wife and I, we're trying to just navigate. We've only been here for 3 weeks now, so we're still trying to, like, get our feet underneath us. We're trying to buy a house over here, so we live in Germany right now. Our temporary housing is in Germany, so we can't get a residence permit until we have a house inside of the Netherlands. So we have to do a short-term rental. So we're going to move from this place to another short-term rental, and then hopefully into a home. So that'll be like 4 moves in the span of like 4 months, because we had to move out of our house that we sold in Colorado as well. So we're getting there. It's been a lot. The kids have been awesome. For a 4 and a 2-year-old, they've just, like, taken it in stride. So very grateful for that, for sure.
Wow. I just can't imagine moving with children. I mean, when I set up my business, one of the things I had to take into consideration was I sat down with Good and we spoke about it, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to have a structure. So, I'm going to go to work to it. I can't wrap that sucker up and just move it across. So, if you have to go somewhere, then I'll see you when you get back. I mean, I don't know what to say, but it was a very difficult decision to make as well. And so, as we were talking earlier, Kevin, when we talk about entrepreneurship and for military spouses, and even not just for military spouses, I think just the way people operate today, a lot of things can be done remotely, technology, you don't have to be in the office so much. And do you guys agree with all of that? Are you, like, working remotely? I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
So first of all, I want to say that I think a really cool episode, if your husband would be open to hopping on your podcast, would just be like you guys periodically talking about how you guys have worked together as an entrepreneur, and like him being on the teams. Because I think a lot of people would benefit, a lot of military spouses would benefit from hearing about that dynamic, and maybe some lessons learned from you guys and challenges that you faced. I think that'd be an awesome topic. And then in terms of, like, working remotely, this is because I'm an entrepreneur and able to work remotely. That's like the only reason we were able to make this move. And so for us, I mean, I think Kevin and I eventually would like to take this podcast in person. So, but we could still navigate that without having me, like, be in the States. Like, we'll just set up some sort of a recording studio and do it quarterly where we bring people in. That's kind of our goal right now. Our next step is to potentially do something like that. But I think there is. I mean, I'm also of the thought that like I would love to see Kevin more often and, like, be in person with him and be able to, like, do, like, just a quick jam session every quarter. And so hopefully that'll be, like, part of that, is, like, being able to strategize together, because nothing beats in person discussions. Yeah. And like being able to converse with someone live and in person. Can't replace it.
I'm only laughing because I've only tried to record my podcast with Kevin, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times, and every time something fucked up. Every time. And
we've actually done one, but for some reason the recording didn't save. It's like we met in person at the Honor Foundation, had a nice room set up, did the whole conversation. Like, that was awesome. That was a good conversation. The next day she's like, I don't know what happened, but nothing recorded. It was just a fun conversation we had in a room by ourselves. And then we tried doing another one, and I don't remember what was going on, but you weren't able to make it, and so we had to cancel that one. And then we were like, all right, we'll reschedule, and then the emails fell off. So at some point, we'll do another one for the Goode show.
And the worst thing was, I came home and I said to Goode, I said, and my husband looked at me now, and Greggy, he's always has a big old water dip in, and he looked at me and he's like, operator error. And I was like,
that sounds like something I would say.
Let me ask you guys this. You put your podcast out you're just on LinkedIn right now, but you've always done video, right? See, I've never done video before. None of my podcasts are in video. So it's kind of like new to me. I mean, this morning I got up after my workout, did my face because I thought we got to be on screen, and it's crazy to say, but it's those kind of things that really put me off. And, it's like, now I got to slap shit off. And that's it just takes time, this takes time.
Yeah, it does. I commend you. Like I laugh with my wife all the time. She has to spend so much effort and time getting ready. I'm like, put on a t-shirt from yesterday, the same pair of pants I've been wearing all week, got flip-flops and get some water in my hair. Like, you ready to go? She's like, no, I'm still getting ready. So I'll just go hang out with Bodhi in the living room while she gets ready.
So see, but how you look, I mean, it's terrible. This is the society and the kind of like marketing that we have to do. You have to look good. And I'm like, my daughter said to me, hey, Mom, should we try some fillers? And I went, fillers? Girlfriend, I don't think I'm at that point. And she went, no, I meant filters on the phone.
Oh, filters.
I'm like,
it is cheaper and easier.
But it's difficult. I find it really hard. I sometimes think people aren't interested in what you're saying in audio. Are they going to want to look at you?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I've got to get over a couple of humps, with my mindset. And with the grasp of technology these days, I mean, everything you guys have just told me, I've gone,
that's one of those things that we're gonna have to put out probably in an upcoming post is just our podcast tech stack. These are the types of questions that people have. If they don't know somebody that's doing it, they don't know where to start. And then Greg's been an absolute guru with this. I've handed off a lot of the responsibilities on the podcast to him because he's like, I've got enough knowledge to be dangerous, and so he's been figuring a lot of it out. But the putting things up on YouTube was a conscious decision, not because we think it's going to get significant views. YouTube's usually one of the lower platforms for people to get viewers on a podcast. It's typically audio. People are driving, commuting in their car, they're just going to pop it on Spotify or Apple. Apple being the number one, Spotify number two. Amazon is kind of in there, but they haven't done a ton of effort to attract creators on there. But YouTube was what we were talking about earlier. It's for doubling down on content or tripling down on content. If we film it, then we have the video. Even if we don't use it for much, we at least have it, and we're getting used to creating these things because most people may not watch the entire, hour, 2 hour long interview on YouTube. They will definitely listen to and watch a minute or two long short. Mm-hmm. And so we're able to pull these video contents out, put those on YouTube, put those on LinkedIn, put those on Instagram. And now we have lead magnets to draw people over to the podcast.
The post I liked that you put on LinkedIn the other day was when you had the little one sleeping. I just thought, something. Sometimes there's a debate about LinkedIn. Should it just be professional? Should people start to post things that are not professional? But I think it really humanizes,
mm-hmm.
Kevin kind of thing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Of course, if you're going to start tweaking and put on some crazy shit, then maybe not on LinkedIn. That was such a nice picture.
I think the term you're looking for is twerking, and I'm quite good at it.
And did I say? Listen, okay.
I think tweaking is what you do when you have a little bit too much meth.
Listen, you know something? I interviewed a gal once, gorgeous gal, right? Comes down, stunner. So next part of the process of the interview is the rest of the baristas would interview, you know, and then they give me their feedback. So girl comes back, the girls interview her, girl leaves, and I look at the girls and I'm like, she's gorgeous, isn't she? And they look at me and they went, oh, she's a fucking tweaker. And I went, a what? What's a tweaker? And they're like, she works in Vegas. I mean, anybody that works in Vegas at a casino, we know because they're tweaking. You know, you're up all loud, you don't know what time it is, but that's an obvious tweaker. And I just thought to myself, I don't know what a tweaker is.
So much to learn.
Yeah, but I'm like, hey, if you girls tell me that she's a tweaker, we shouldn't hire, then I'm gonna back you guys. Because there was one of my only rule with my baristas was, hey, listen, bring anybody, like-minded people, attract like-minded people, you know, the good work ethic kind of thing. I said, the only time you ladies have to worry is when I go around and I do my cleaning checks, because I was anal when it came to the cleaning of the location. And if I find that one location is in a state of disrepair, then all of you are coming in on a Saturday morning and you're cleaning that location. All of you.
Sounds just like the military.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like the mass punishment. I love it.
My favorite expression about this stuff is one person shits their pants, everyone wears a diaper. That's the military to a T.
You know, somebody asked me as well, they said, were you in the military? And I went, no. But I think because, you know, I was born in an immigrant family, lots of brothers, and I mean, there's a lot of brothers, and I was the younger female. My mom had to, and my dad had to, with all of us, we were a tribe, you know, they had to like, hey, where's number 45? Get him in line, you know, just, no. It had to be like that. So I grew up just like, hey, knocking the shit out, let's go, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Not very sexy sometimes, you know, but...
entrepreneurship isn't very often.
And then, because you put that comment on LinkedIn about my cussing, right? Somebody said to me the other day, they went, because they'd never heard of this, and they went, you cuss a lot, do you? And I went, depending upon the situation, I said, but in my defense, as I was growing up, my mother could not pronounce her F's. And as we were walking down the street, and it was kind of racially filled, tension-filled area, we were walking down the street, and some, you know, not so nice people turned around and said to me and my mom, you know, said something. And my mom, in her sassiness, because I get it from her, obviously, she didn't give a shit, in her sassiness, turned around and said, oh, you fuck up! And at that point, I thought to myself, all right, we're going to cuss, Mom. We're going to do it properly. I think I was the only Indian kid that went home after school, sat my mom down, and I'd say, okay, it's fuck off. It's fuck, not fuck. You know, and then I grew up with boys. You know, at any time I had 5 guys around me, you know, so it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. But I said to the person they said to me, what's your favorite?
It keeps you real.
It does. I think so. They said, what's your favorite cuss word? And I went, fuck. I said, it's incredibly effective. You can make it be whatever you want it to be. Plus, it's very good. So, you know, it's a winner.
If you're going to go, you might as well go big with it.
Yeah. You know, so.
It's a very versatile swear word.
It
really is.
And you know, something people say, it is what it is. The world is real. I like to keep it real. Sometimes people don't like what that realness is. Like I had to say to somebody once at work on base, I had to look at them and they were saying something that was, yeah, a little bit off, you know, and I turned around and I went, listen, you're an old fucking coffee lady. So let me ask you a question, you know, as you talk about this height and weight in proportion. When was the last time you saw your dick? And he went, dude, that's so jacked up. I went, yeah, because you should be able to see all times. I said, so come on now. Maybe somebody has a point. Maybe you need to use a couple of LBs. So sometimes people don't like to hear the real shit. Then I gave him his coffee and I smiled. I even put whipped cream on it.
Oh, look at you. Service with a smile. And an insult, I guess. Actually, that would have been a great slogan for you guys. Service with an insult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What's that one restaurant that it's down in downtown San Diego where they
Dick's
like
Last Resort.
Yeah, they just shit on you all meal.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Yeah. First time I went in there, I was on vacation. I went in, the gal was really rude to me, and I thought, well, fuck you too, lady. You know, and then I realized, okay, that's it.
That's the entire business model. Basically, they took your business model and turned it into a high-end restaurant.
That would have been a great place to hire from.
Now, I will say this. Starbucks on Orange Avenue, I'm going to say this. Starbucks on Orange Avenue used to open up at 6 o'clock.
So Orange Avenue is the main drag in Coronado for anyone not familiar.
Yes. They used to open up at 6 in the morning. And because I'm anal, official open time was 5, but I'd be there at 4, because just anal. And so if anybody came by to get a coffee and it wasn't 5 o'clock, I'd be like, yeah, man, let me brew it, whatever. We never said that. Then I noticed that Starbucks started opening at 5:30. Then I drove by one day and he was open at 5, and I walked in there and I went, hey. I said, what time do you guys open? And he went, oh, we open at 5 o'clock. I went, well, you guys opened at 6? And they went, no, we've got to start opening at 5. I went, all right. A couple of weeks later, I went in there, beautiful hot chick behind the counter. And I thought, okay, I see what's going on here. I got the best baristas. Starbucks, you're not getting them. I got them already. So it was kind of flattering that that Orange Avenue Starbucks wanted to open up earlier because, little wacko jacko was on base at 5 in the morning.
And there you go. You just influenced a multi-billion-dollar company.
I don't know if they're still open at 5 though, but
probably not. They're like, thank God Surinder's gone. We can go back to 6 o'clock starts. She's taking too much business from us.
That's great. It's great. Now let me ask you, Kevin. You've got a little one. Hasn't it just changed? Doesn't it just change your everything?
Changes my sleep habits.
Yes, that's for sure.
No, he's been an absolute treat. He just hit 5 weeks old yesterday, and he's had a couple fussy days. But in the grand scheme of things, I think we've had 2 full days where he's been fussy. So 2 out of 49 days or 35 days. I can do math.
I don't do math in public, Kevin. So
I don't have my fingers on the screen. I mean my crayons. But no, he's been he's been an absolute treasure to be around. Like everyone we see, it's like he's such a mellow baby. We had to take him to the NICU about a week in. He was getting a bit jaundicey, and so the pediatrician is like, hey, his bilirubin count, which is the metric that they base jaundice off of, was getting to be a concern, and so they're like, we're gonna put him in the NICU at least 24 hours to get his blue light therapy, the kind of like phototherapy or something. Basically, if you're a jaundicey baby, you need to get sunlight to help bring it down, get him eating to pass all the stuff out. And so, the NICU, where they're seeing hundreds, if not thousands of babies every year, they were like, this baby is so mellow. He's 8 days old. We called it his spa day because they put him in the incubator, which is heated up to 85 degrees or whatever. It's a great little humid box for him to hang out in, and Bodhi loves the heat. We have a little space heater we turn on to him when we're changing his diaper, and he immediately, it's like arms behind his head, legs spread open, just like blowing hot air over my balls. He's so happy with it. And so we have this picture of him in the incubator. He has this blue light going on the top, which is called his tanning bed, inside of a sauna with an eye mask on, just arms behind his head, legs spread open, completely passed out. And the nurses were like, he's so mellow. We don't really understand it most of the time because they can't be wrapped up. They can't be swaddled because they need to have their skin exposed to the light. They don't have human touch, and they're inside of a box away from people. They're like, normally they're very fussy in there. And Bodhi was like, no, this is good. I'm happy being here. We give him a bottle every once in a while so that he can be good. But yeah, it's been definitely a learning experience figuring out when or why he's crying. What is it this time? Is it the diaper? Is it he's tired? Is it he's hungry? Is it he just feels like crying because his stomach hurts, whatever it is. But it's been so nice that I'm not counting days of, I have to go back to work on this date. So when you get everything in line, ready to go, so that you can take care of him without me. I'm here at home. If Kristen needs to go run out someplace, I'll just be holding him, getting some work done. It's been a great experience to have him, because I know what it would have been like in the military.
So Greg, did you deploy while you had children?
I had my last kid, or my first kid, while I was in Afghanistan. So I flew back for a week, saw the birth, and then had to go back in the country. So that was kind of like the writing on the wall for me, that it was. And my wife works she's an attorney, she works full time, so it was like, okay. And we wanted to have more kids. There's one of them crying right now, you can hear. So I was like, that was about the time where I decided, like a year out, I was like, I'm going to get out.
See, it's got to be difficult, because I think about my own husband, and I always say to spouses as well, it's got to be harder for the service member to leave, because they're detaching. We are left with our home comforts, and sometimes just having your home comforts is just means a lot. We sometimes, I think, we go down a little bit of woe is me path, but let's be honest, there's a plus sign to the service member going this way as well. Do you know what I mean? In the relationship kind of thing. But I've always said that it's got to be hard for the service member to leave, because you're leaving everything behind. You know what I mean? I remember I left it was a couple of months to go see my father, and just that time away from my kids, my heart would physically ache, as a mom. So I can't imagine how Goode did it. I mean, actually, when I had Jake at first, Goode was on deployment. He did not come back. He actually got Sailor of the Year Pack Fleet, which I had no idea of that, because I'm like, I'm having a kid, and you're going to be doing some crazy shit, and now you're in Hawaii. I mean, so I had no idea.
Seems fair.
Yeah, I had no idea what that meant. But he wasn't here for Jake's birth. But he was here for Jordan's. And again, having children and then leaving to go on a deployment, I cannot imagine what must go through your heads as you depart. You know what I mean? I like to think with my husband, and Greg, my husband is so stoic that you never know what the guy's thinking. Sometimes I don't know if he likes me. I mean, but I guess I always just think that you put yourself into that mindset, or I think Goode does that. Okay, separate. This is what we're doing now. Moving forward, that is all back there. But it's going to be hard.
Yeah, that was a tough transition for me to go. I just because you gotta. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you just turn it off, and you go do what you got to do and get back. And that's. I'm pretty good about doing that, about just like compartmentalizing like that. And I'm a big fan of neutral thinking. Like, this is the situation that we have at hand. Like, it's not good or bad. It just is. And you go about it and you do your business, and then you figure it out. So.
Something I wish, I mean, as I think I'm an incredibly fortunate person, and I've always said to people that the fact that I grew up with a lot of brothers, I've always been in a predominantly male environment. I feel really lucky that I can understand the male mindset to some degree, because a lot of shit does not shock me. But I'm a woman, so I feel like I have the kind of like the best of both worlds, really, But it's also not a good thing, because again, sometimes I'll be talking to Goode, and Goode will look at me and be like, it's like talking to one of the guys. I'm like, yeah, yo, dude, and he's like, oh, it's like talking to one of the guys. And I'm like, yeah, it's. But I think having that kind of mindset is a relationship, because I get it. I get what you did. I know what you're doing. I know what I'm married into. I know you're going to go away. I know I've got to get my shit squared away. And back in my day, listen to me. Back in my day, you know, you got your package. You know, you sent you wrote the letter. And I'll say this: writing that letter, putting those things. I always had 2 logs of Copenhagen in separate boxes in case one went astray. You know, it was much better than it was today. Much, much better. Because I think today with technology, with social media, your argument, you take that argument on deployment. That argument never gets resolved. It gets worse on deployment. And then you bring that argument back home, you know. And I just think I do not agree with that at all. I would love for, man, if I had the way, press the red button, the whole internet, we're done, you know. But the thing about those days, and I'll try and explain these to spouses, you had when you got that letter back from your service member, first of all, you waited for it, you know, and there's some element of excitement for waiting for it. And then you got it, and it's tangible in your hand, and you can reread it, and it's a beautiful thing, you know. Today, I don't understand how.
It was also the fact that it was, you know, that thing was there with them. They touched it. They wrote on it. It was physically there. Now it's physically there with you. As you said, an email, it's very impersonal.
Yes.
And you have the same content there, but it doesn't have that same connection.
No. Even phone calls. I mean, you know, you got a phone call when you got a phone call. I mean, my guy had made it very clear to me from day one, you know, kind of like sat me down and said, hey, this is what I do. This is my application. You know, this is the deal. I'm letting you know the deal before you say I do. And I appreciated that because, I'm part of it now. So let me know what it is, kind of thing, you know. And I find some of those conversations don't happen. Even financial conversations don't happen, you know, not just within the military, I'm saying, you know, because I sat on a seminar at Liberty Military Housing. And I was asked a financial question, you know, by a couple, you know, how to make good financial choices. And I said to them, well, listen, do you know what the other earns? And they just looked at me and I'm like, well, every decision you make moving forward financially is going to be bad because you don't know what the other one earns. You got to know what you bring into your house in order to make these kind of decisions. And I'm finding that as I'm doing my podcast, this kind of, I think this kind of like basic information maybe is not getting out there, you know.
Or just basic communication skills.
Yeah, you know. But I loved it back in the day. I go back there any day of the week. I feel I had Britain at the best possible time that Britain was Britain. And then I feel I came to the States again, very fortunate, came stateside, and I had best of America. You know, so now I kind of like.
It's all downhill from here now. Sorry. Find another country. Where are we going next?
Don't say that, Kevin. Don't say that. I got citizenship.
2024.
I got stakes here, man. No,
well, you got the podcast. You can do that from wherever, so you don't need to be physically on base anymore. You can set up shop in Costa Rica, or I don't know. What's a fun country for you next?
You know, I don't know. I've been so spoiled that I've gone to so many great places that spoils you. I think you know what I do want to do though. What is on my bucket list? I've been fortunate to travel the world. I have not seen the full United States. You know, I would love to get into an RV, go state to state. What is it known for? You know, what's going on here? You know what I mean?
That'd be great for the podcast. Yeah. Let's go around, set up a little room in the RV.
Yeah.
Actually go visit the bases and talk to the military spouses and just do it right there.
Hey, we should
and then you
do
get the
it.
RV paid for.
Huh?
Greg can get a Eurovan and do it around Europe.
Yeah.
You can visit all the military bases out there.
That would be pretty cool, actually. That's a great idea.
That honestly would be a pretty cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I want to go state to state. I want to see the United States. Um, that's on my bucket list. I have no real desire to go abroad anymore. I've seen some great countries. I've seen some shitholes. I think you need to see both. I said to somebody recently, I said, something, I like you so much that I'm going to buy you a first class ticket to a shithole. That way, you will realize how much you have. How much you take for granted. You know, um, it's not going to go all downhill though, Kevin. I gotta believe.
Yeah.
I have to believe. I'm a believer.
I just like giving people the hard time about all the good times are gone. Just everything in front of us is going to be dreary and miserable. But no, I'm a very optimistic person. If you couldn't tell by all my posts, everyone's like, you have a very positive spin to all your stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I dealt with enough negativity. I don't need to be trash talking everybody else out there.
Yeah.
But it's much more enjoyable to build a community and have everyone interacting happily.
Yeah, I don't, and going back to what you had said earlier about, business ideas and everybody keeping them close to their thing and you guys share everything. I know that there's a couple of military spouses out there that have podcasts as well, and I think sometimes like human nature, you like you're sussing out a competition, and then I think, well, that's, there's enough space out there for everybody. And I think together, it's always better together. Things
for sure. And even if you are in direct competition with somebody in a podcast, God forbid you have the exact model.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a driven, dependable, consistent person, we just put a post about the numbers. Like if you have, I think it was 32 downloads, you're in the top 50% of all podcasts. There's like 4 million different podcasts with 150 million episodes out there. And all you need to do is get 32 downloads on an episode and you're in the top 50%. And if you make it past episode 10, you're already in like the top 20% of podcasts. It was only 740,000 podcasts out of the 4 million have made it past 10 episodes.
Now, that blows my mind. And I read an article.
Well, it does, except that it gets to the point that you were talking about earlier of the work ethic of this generation, where everyone's like, I want to be Joe Rogan, I want to be Chris Williamson, I want to be Sean Ryan. And then by episode 3, I haven't reached stardom. I haven't been an overnight success. I'm not doing it anymore.
That's exactly the article that I read. And they said that podcasters start and 6 months later, their level of expectation is so unrealistic. And when I started off this thing, I had said to myself that I'm just going to keep going, and that's it. I'm not trying to be anybody other than who I am. And, I have not looked at my downloads since I started in April. And why haven't I looked at them? Because I'm a little worried to look. I don't want to see the numbers right now, right? I know they're not going to be great, and I'm okay with them not being great, but I just don't want to see them. I just want to go. I want to go for the full year, which will be April, and then I'm going to have a look at them, break them down and say, okay, because you have got, naturally you get better. Like you said earlier, when you look at episode 1, you're on episode 4, 5. I'm on episode 24, I think I just released. And I look back at like some of my episodes and I think, oh,
yeah. And that's why I think it's important to go back, like maybe not watch the whole thing, but definitely listen to some of it so you can hear those little ticks that you do. Do you say a lot? Do you say like? Do you have other tick words that you use? Do you, if you're doing video, do you move around a lot? Does your background look like crap? Does the format, like Greg made an amazing format for the shorts where it puts it into a tile view and puts our logo on the bottom. We haven't been able to figure out how to do that for the long version yet.
Mm-hmm.
But like, oh, cool. We know that this is possible for this type of thing. How can we now make this happen for the longer one? And just constantly trying to make improvements. You don't have to go from, shit to a piece of gold in 2 episodes. If you're just making those small incremental improvements, you're like, all right, I saw this one on the last one, let's change that. And then on the summary, let's let's do this style and see if it looks better. And I've been, if you look at back the last few episodes, you'll see that I've tried different camera angles. I've got the front on, I've tried the little bit off to the side, and you start seeing yourself like, oh, well, when it's off to the side, it looks like I'm constantly looking down because I'm looking at my screen, but the camera's up higher, so it looks like you're looking at the top of my eyelids. You just notice little things like that, and you make incremental improvements over time. That by the time you hit episode 100, you've made significant changes when you look back at episode 1. So you do have to look, but don't obsess about it.
Yeah,
take a look at the end of the week. Cool, you have this many downloads. That's our metric for that one. Don't be looking every day. Don't be looking every hour. You'll drive yourself crazy.
That's why I just thought, I'll look at them after a year, and then I'll see what happens from there. And the Instagram numbers, I think Jordan probably takes more notice of than I do. I mean, I remember when I hit 100, I felt like I wanted to pop champagne corks and whoa, whoa, whoa. And I don't look at the numbers because I don't want to obsess over them. They go up, they go down. All I know is this, and I gave a talk the other day to military spouses. All I know is this. I started with 0. That's what I know. I'm now at 426, right? And I'm very proud of that. So it's grown. As long as I can see growth, that's all that matters to me. And the other thing is, I always say to people, especially like in all my professional career and all the jobs that I've honestly had, I think there's been maybe 2, possibly 2, maybe 3 that I really did not like. But every job or profession that I've fallen into, I have thoroughly enjoyed. I've never ever seen it like work, So I tell people all the time, you've got to find something that you like, write down on a piece of paper, are you a morning person, an afternoon person? Do you like people? Do you want to work alone? Write these things down, and then you can figure out which way you should go, because there is no point in you wanting to do a podcast if, I'm talking to people, or the camera scares you, shit like that. So I think sometimes people get, this idea up here, and they don't realize that there's a shit ton of work that goes into it, to execute. It's the execution.
It's that foundational level.
Yeah,
it's that foundational level work that you build on to ultimately be successful.
Yeah. So many people said to me once I opened the coffee cart, they said to me, "This was my idea." I was like, "Well, I stole it."
That makes me think of Kevin. Just like the Ikegai. Have you heard of that, Surinder?
Yeah.
So you think how does it break down, Kevin? You have it in your pre-launch checklist.
Ikegai is a Japanese term. It's literally translates to your reason for being. And they've done some pretty cool like Venn diagrams and stuff that breaks down the different aspects of it. And so there's 4 main components. To make sure I remember this off the top of my head, but there's, enjoying what you do, being good at what you do, society finding value in what you do, and whatever it is you're doing, helping improve the place. So like, for example, I always tell people to start with the first 2 of what you're good at and what you enjoy. Because if you're good at it and you enjoy it, you have longevity. And so, if you're getting to something, some people are really good at something they hate. Don't do that unless you can teach yourself to enjoy it. So let's say podcasting, for example, do you enjoy talking with people, and are you good at talking with people? Some people like it and you're like, dude, you can't hold the conversation to save your life. But being able to like it and be good at it means that you can have that longevity that most people don't have in a career. So you'll be able to keep pushing through the hard times, because there ultimately will be hard times in any career. And then if make sure that there's value in what you do. Will society pay for it? and I always tell people, don't be too critical in this space, because there's psychics and there's professional dog walkers. People pay for a lot of weird shit. So invariably, especially with the internet nowadays, you'll be able to find your tribe who sees value in what you do. So if you enjoy it and you're good at it, you can probably find people who are willing to pay for it. And then the last one isn't as important for it to be a business, but it is important for the longevity of it. Is what you're doing contributing to a greater good, to improving society? I always use Candy Crush as an example. Candy Crush, if you're a programmer, you enjoy programming, you're good at programming, people obviously pay for something like Candy Crush. But is what you're doing ultimately making society better? Are you going to be happy with it? Or are you going to be like, I'm just making a lot of money, wasting people's time? So having something that's actually improving the lives of everyone around you. And that's how we look at this podcast. It's our way of having fun conversations, being able to spend time with our kids. We hopefully will be able to monetize it. Obviously, podcasts can be monetized, so there is value in that. And then the ultimate good is we want to help veterans across a wide variety of verticals, mental health, entrepreneurship, mindset, transitioning out of the military. And ultimately, it doesn't have to just be veterans. A lot of people are in those same spaces. Transitioning out of the military could be transitioning careers, transitioning points of your life, going from being single to being married, being from married to having kids, leaving one job, going to another. Life's full of transitions. Mental health across the board. I know Greg is a huge proponent of men's mental health. It's just something that's not actively talked about, accepted. And so there's a huge area for us to get rid of some of the preconceived notions about it. Mindset. He's been a Green Beret. I've been a SEAL. Talking about how we use those backgrounds to be successful in entrepreneurship. And so there's a whole variety of people that we think could benefit from our show.
Let me ask you both a question. In regards to your professions, the mindset of the profession, do you think that is something you're born with, or is it something you nurture, you build? Does that make sense? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I'm trying to say? Because how do you?
Is it nature versus nurture?
Yeah.
I think to some extent, it's definitely. I don't know. That's a really tough question. There's certainly, what I do know for sure is there's certainly a nurture aspect to it, and I'm not sure if it's something that's like. I think about this a lot, actually. If it's something that's brought out by your experiences in the military, like maybe you already had it in you, but it was those experiences that like exposed it. But if I had not joined the military and gone the soft route, became a Green Beret, like there's no way I would have like this just like inner like intestinal fortitude to figure things out. Like I know that if there's a problem in front of me, I can solve it. It's a figure outiveness that like when my back is against the wall, I know that I'm okay. And I think that is what makes us probably, very successful in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And I think there's also a perspective shift. I can be the most calm, resilient person in the world, but if you don't have a perspective baseline to reference things from, I think you'll still be, relatively speaking, a little bit more high strung. And that's why people do stuff like Tough Mudders and Spartan races, because they want to have something that challenges them. Most people, they go day to day from their couch to their car to their office desk, back to their couch, back to the kitchen table, and to their bed. Like, they have very little physical exertion. They have very little mental strain outside of work related stress, which it still triggers a fight or flight, but that's because they don't have anything else as a reference. Where even if you've never been to combat, just going through SEAL training and the workup cycle that we do, it gives you a different baseline of what struggle is, and what what is an area where you should be actually stressed versus, you know, I'm warm, I'm dry, I'm fed. I'll be able to work through this adjusted timeline on my TPS report. But there's so many people that they don't have anything else that that timeline shift of this business acquisition. That's now the craziest thing in the world to them, and they start freaking out. Their cortisol spikes, their adrenaline spikes, and they don't have any way to regulate it because they're not regularly exposed to anything that gives them perspective shift. And that's why I think he's Captain Hennessy now, if he's still in. He was the CO of Buds, and when we finished Hell Week, he talked to us, in our delirium. I remember him saying one thing is, do one thing every day that challenges yourself. It doesn't have to be Hell Week, but taking an ice bath, taking a cold shower, doing a hard workout, do something that reminds you of there are hard things out there much worse than what you're going through at the moment.
Yeah, I've always wondered, I sometimes think to myself, if you're born with that mindset, or like you said, Greg, some things happen where you've had to use it, and then you kind of hone in on it. Before you guys joined the military, had you been outside the States?
Mm-hmm.
Where had you?
Nope.
You hadn't, Greg. Where had you gone,
Nope.
Kevin? Had you gone on vacation?
Yeah, I'd traveled a lot. My dad was a doctor, and he would do medical conferences, and he would double down on those conferences as like family vacations.
Yeah.
So I'd been to Brazil, Mexico, Europe. Those are the main ones. He traveled around a lot too, and so I was fortunate that I was exposed to a variety of things that I probably honestly at that age took for granted. I just assumed that was normal.
Let me ask you both this. Obviously, you didn't go to Afghanistan or Iraq on vacation.
No.
So
No.
I ask service members this question, and I'm always, intrigued by the responses. So you've been told you're going on deployment. It's your first deployment. You rack your shit up, whatever, you get it ready. You're coming into land, say, I don't know, Afghanistan. I'm just pulling that out my ass. You come into land, and in my head, what happens is the doors open and you see the land for the first place. Right? What are you thinking? What are you thinking, Kevin? It's the first time. I think of it like in the movies, the C-150 or whatever it is. The doors open and everybody's standing there like this, I know it's not like that.
So I flew into Camp Leatherneck in Afghanistan, Helmand Province, and legitimately, I was joking around for most of the deployment. I'm like, I feel like we just flew around in the air for 24 hours and then landed back in Palm Springs because it just looked like barren, dry rock. It looked all the same. There's the mountain on the far horizon. Camp Leatherneck is in a river valley basin. Like there was no birds around. It was really weird. Like you'd see a bird, like holy shit, there's life out here. It was definitely not the scenic north that you see a lot of the picturesque footage from, where there's the tiered mountainsides with crops. Leatherneck is the middle of a dry riverbed. It was just rock and dirty and dusty, sandstorms. It was hot. It was like 130 degrees during the summer. So yeah, I would often joke. I'm like, where does that 29 Palms? It's all a joke.
Were there any structures, or was it just like,
just the base?
Okay.
My experience was a little bit different. We were over in Nangarhar, so we were over in the Hindu Kush. I mean, so that area is, I mean, it's beautiful. Like I think to myself, like, man, if we could ever end up visiting here, it would be really cool, just because it's such a picturesque place. But then when you zoom in and then you go in to hit these villages and stuff like that, it is like literally the Stone Ages, and they're powered by like car batteries. That's how they're getting electricity. Their water, it's all, I mean, obviously it's all well water. Like it is primitive. And that was for me, like it, but like when you see it, you're like, wow, this is a whole nother level. And then you think about the people that you're fighting, and you're like, wow, these guys, I mean, these guys were raised in this, they've been living this, and they have no problem with it. This is their normal. And I mean, it almost gives you a little bit like of respect for what they're like for them, right? As a fighting, culture.
Yes, when my mom had a conversation with Good, obviously there's a big like, and my mom was the kind of woman that put all the English words that she knew together and said them in one sentence. And if you didn't know what she was talking about, so I take after my mom. But I remember my mom in her broken English was saying to Good, basically, not like anybody over there. Any of the relatives that are over there, we don't talk to them anymore. So hey, if you want to press the button, just go right ahead. Just nuke it. And I'm like, okay. And she's like this, and she's very matter of fact with it. She's like, yeah, just nuke it, because you know what you're doing? You're fighting the mindset. You're never going to fight the mindset. You're never going to win that. And then she turned around, and my guy's just sitting there looking at her like, okay, did she just say what I think she just said? She wants us just to nuke the place? But yeah, it was very simple. War was very simple to her. She had been, and I never knew this about my mom either, she had a little tattoo right there on her hand. And for the longest time, I just thought, my mom, being a little old Indian woman is quite progressive. She's got a tat. That'd be cool, Did not realize until towards the end of her life that she had actually been in a concentration camp in India, on the border of Pakistan and India, where they still fight about Peshawar today, and I guess when Pakistan had invaded, they, scooped up all the girls, and put them in a concentration camp. And my mom was told, she said, the only way you're going to get out of here is if you, renounce your religion and marry a god and, convert and whatever. And she was just like, I'll take my chances. And, she's like, I ain't giving up my religion. I ain't going to do that. So, and, it just so happened that the Brits invaded, and that wasn't a tattoo. It was the brand. They branded her when she was in the concentration camp. And I just thought, I never knew this about my mom until towards the end of her life, but it really explained that her going through that trauma, I guess her mindset, you just have to switch, to survive, and she was actually on a BBC documentary because she was one of the oldest, sassy little Indian women that were alive when they recorded it, and
we have a limited number of people that we can talk to.
And my biggest concern, because I'm a numpty head, my biggest concern was mom. Make sure you get it right. But no, again, so I just think again when you talk about the mindset and that part of the world, and
well, it's just that generation as a whole. They kept a lot of those pains and those miseries to themselves. Where nowadays everyone wants to flaunt their adversity and wear it as a badge of honor. Like, I had to deal with this. Our grandparents, they went through the Great Depression. They're like, everyone did that. I don't know, but I'm not special.
Yeah. It's funny because what my dad taught us about racism was really simple. Because we lived in a predominantly white area, and my dad was an incredibly respectful person, and he was always like, listen, we're in their country. There's some things that we need to kind of monitor, right? But he was always like, just be good to people. That was his big thing. Just be good to people. And I remember him coming through our window once, and he looked at everybody, and was like, is everybody okay? And we're like, yeah. And he went, listen, there is nothing wrong with you guys. Absolutely not. There's something very wrong with those people outside. They are the ones with the problem, not you. Dot your I's, cross your T's. If you do the right thing, you cannot go wrong. He was a real simple kind of guy, just do the right thing. He couldn't understand why people couldn't get that right. So do the right thing, man. And so, never at any point, and I come from a place where you walk down the street and jostled and whatever, I'll be honest with you. Maybe it's like some people are a little bit hardened to death, unfortunately, because it's happened a few times. I'm just hardened to that kind of thing. So again, I don't think it's an issue. It's not been an issue for me. The first time I was interviewed stateside, the first question out of the girl's mouth, and she was half my age and some, was, hey, Mrs. Goode, what is it like for you being a woman in America and a woman of color? What are the issues? And I looked at her and I went, whoa. First of all, having TNA has never, ever been a deficit to me. I said, and the last time I drove by Coronado Beach, there were a bunch of white people wanted to get to be the same color as me. So again, no deficit. I said, so I cannot be your prostitute. I just come from a school of do good, do hard work, do the right thing. America has been good to me. I've experienced shit, man. See, again, I'm lucky. I went to...
You hang out with somebody like, you hang out with a knuckle dragger like Goode. Like, people are going to think twice before they do too much.
Listen, this is when you realize that maybe as a spouse, you need to take a step back and just, maybe you've gone overboard. Is when your partner looks at you and goes, lady, I think I've had an easier day in the cave with the Taliban. And then you think, I gotta calm down a little bit. Maybe I should just, but no, yeah, I mean,
simmer down.
Yeah, but no, I haven't experienced those things, and I'm again very fortunate. And I just think to myself, let's just fucking rock and roll forward, America. Let's just move on forward. Let's go. Let's build businesses. Let's make people financially independent, because that's important. Being financially independent and creating that self-wealth gives you that almost second wind to keep it going, and there's so many of us out there that got so many great ideas that we just need to do it. My advice to everybody out there is, if you've got an idea, the only time you're not going to make it is when you stop trying.
I think that right there is a fantastic spot to end this on. Like, just keep going, push through.
Yeah.
It goes right there with the podcast. Don't quit. Beat the other 80% just by putting out 10 episodes, and then just keep going from there.
Listen, man, I got no shame. I'm gonna keep on going.
Please do.
Yeah.
Well, Surinder, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. If you want to real quick drop through your social media handles, your podcast, and any other information you want people to know about.
Yeah, my new website is www.surindergoode.com, GOODE.com.
And Surinder's SURINDER.
Look, there you go. There you go. And look, there's my little target practice.
There we go.
For everybody on
There you
YouTube,
go.
it's in the back.
I'm on Instagram at The Goode Show. I'm on Spotify. Follow me, DM me. Tell me what you think. That's the other thing I think. If you feedback, give me some feedback. That's where I am. I've got to say, it has been an honor to be on. I really appreciate you guys having me on, because you never know what you're going to get. You took the risk, and I appreciate it.